All right. Hi. So it's been a while since I've done like a longer format video when it comes to like book reviews. And I've read a lot since then. So there's a lot that I would like to talk about. There's some things, maybe not as much, but one of them that was kind of next on the list after War and Peace, which was the last set of videos that I uploaded, again, like a long form version, was this. This is the complete short stories of Ernest Hemingway. And I really enjoyed this. This kind of influenced me to start writing short stories, just come up with something, and then write to the heart's content. There's not like a word count, there's not a page count. I find it kind of fun just to write short stories, just to think whether it's a page or it's 15 pages. Just to have a good time. And this is what kind of inspired me to do that, because I really enjoy Hemingway. There are some bits and pieces of his writing that I personally think might be a little bland, but not in a bad way. I really love his world building, and I've said that in other videos, whether it's the short form content or things over on TikTok. But Hemingway always leaves something with me. I may not necessarily completely enjoy it in the act of reading, but afterwards, it's something that I would really, really like to go back to at some point, to just kind of let it rest and simmer for a while, and then take a peek at it again. And I don't know what it is about Hemingway's writing that kind of influences me to feel like that, but there is something that I just adore about Hemingway. And I know he's a super popular author. I know it's probably rather cliche to really enjoy him, but I have to say that there is a reason why he's so popular, because I love a lot of books. I am very easygoing when it comes to books. I really don't put things on like a DNF list too often, because I like to finish things. I think it makes me feel good, and then it's something that I know that even though I didn't like it, it's something that I accomplished. And there's been a couple of times For Whom the Bell Tolls was a Hemingway book that I had a hard time finishing. It just felt like it went really slow for me, but it's something that I've wanted to go back to and reread, because there's so much of it that I continually think about when I think of Hemingway. And I had a great time with his short stories. Some of them are relatively long. I mean, they're still short. I don't know if I can give you a great example just glancing at the contents here, but some of them do, there's some that are like 10 pages, some that are 15, and that's probably about it. So not crazy. But his short stories, so this is everything he ever wrote. This is the first 49 after that. And what I really loved is in this version, I don't know how easy it is going to be to see, but there's a part 3 right here with 8 different stories, and those were a lot of fun. Those were very interesting to read, because they were chapters of a book that he did not publish, that he didn't finish before his death. So that was pretty interesting to go through, that some of these short stories were kind of connected, that they weren't necessarily short stories, but they were individual chapters of a book that he was working on. So it was fun to see this glimpse into what was happening in his mind and what was happening kind of in his own world right up until the end. So that was great. And I would recommend you go through these, especially if you're a Hemingway fan. This is really great to see his style and to look at his short stories, because most of his books I don't think are necessarily very long. The Sun Also Rises is short. The Old Man and the Sea is only, I think, like 120 pages or less. So his stuff isn't crazy long, even like For Whom the Bell Tolls and A Farewell to Arms. Those are still only a few hundred pages. So this was a lot of fun to see how Hemingway, and I guess I started on the novels, like the longer actual books. So this was neat to see how Hemingway put together something so cohesive and so impactful in just a few pages, or in 10 pages, or even 15. But some of them are only 2. But it was, I feel, and again, this is something that I like to do just based off of enjoyment purely, but I feel like Hemingway did such a good job on a majority of these short stories where you get to know these characters insanely quickly and feel like you're right there with them, whether it's one of his characters that's in a forest moving from town to town and just kind of I wouldn't say like a hobo, but the guys that carry like a stick with a bandana on the back with other stuff in it. The term is escaping my mind right now. But you feel like you're there. You feel like you are in the swamp, you're in the woods, you are in the car with everybody. One of the first ones is The Snows of Kilimanjaro. That is the third story in this. And that one, right off the bat, I thought was phenomenal. I loved the dynamic between the husband and wife and then the guide, the fighting the lion, kind of this overconfidence and going to shoot the lion. It was really great. And again, I mean, there's 100 short stories or chapters, snippets in here, so there's a lot going on. But Hemingway definitely sticks to some very specific things. It's either the war, and he was, part of World War One. He was a medic, like an ambulance driver in the First World War, and a lot of his stuff kind of encompasses that. And then he was also a reporter during the Spanish Revolution, so he's got some bits about bullfighting, which The Sun Also Rises, and I'll do a video on that too, because I read that at the start of this summer, about a month or two ago from when I'm making this. And his knowledge of bullfighting is incredible, that you feel like you know a lot about bullfighting, then that you could go in and look at it and critique it. I mean, it's phenomenal, the depth of his knowledge when it comes to bullfighting. And he's got some bits about that in here as well. It's a lot of war stuff, but he also has some stuff about kind of that movement within the United States, kind of that bouncing from point A to point B, meeting different people that are also on the road, that, aren't necessarily homeless, but are moving around in these camps. And then also a lot with Native Americans and a specific recurring doctor and his son that pops up. So this was a lot of fun. This took me quite a while to finish. Again, Hemingway is something I can read in short bursts. It's not, his books aren't something that I can sit down and do cover to cover within hours. I need to read a little bit, like a chapter or two at a time, and then kind of sit on it and think. And I liked how the short stories were broken down, because I felt as though I could do that. I could read a short story or two and then kind of reflect on it and then go in and read the next ones. And it was nice that they weren't all connected. I thought that was also a lot of fun that you can do. And I really like the short story format. And it's something that I've gotten into a little bit more with other authors. I don't have it with me, but back here behind me, I have a short story collection of Franz Kafka. And it was all thanks to Hemingway's stories. But this is a lot of fun. I think this is a great addition. If you love Hemingway, if you like Hemingway, you enjoy this kind of early American literature, this kind of post-Mark Twain style, Hemingway, for one, is a great one to do, but also the short story collection, because, again, it made me think. And I know Hemingway's whole ideology when it came to writing is that about, an eighth of the information is on the surface, and then it's up to the reader to interpret the other 7/8. And even in his short story, there's these short stories, I think that still is very, very, very prevalent in this, that Hemingway definitely leaves a lot, I guess, to the imagination and left to be interpreted by the reader, even in 2, 3, 4, 15 pages. So this was great. This was a lot of fun. There's definitely some lulls, there's definitely some slow stories, but I mean, not everything has to be what's going to happen very suspenseful. That this is a lot of, what would real life feel like throughout the years as he's reading this in the 20th century, up until the later, half or last quarter of the century. So this was phenomenal. I'm so happy to have this in my whole collection with me. I think this is a phenomenal one, and probably something that I might go through and read different stories again, maybe skip around a little bit more. But this was great. So again, I would recommend it, especially if you're a fan of early American, or not, I guess not necessarily early, but American literature, or Ernest Hemingway in general. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a phenomenal week.